probably more concerned with the appointment and the staff that have come in with the manager. It just seems a bit of a circus act, really.
For days, Manchester United was spoken about like a cautionary tale. An interim manager, a fractured rhythm, another short-term fix waiting to fail.
There cannot be any consideration that Michael takes the job beyond this season, for Michael and for the club.
Studio panels circled the same conclusions. You can't steady a giant with a caretaker. You can't face Manchester City without control. You can't survive a derby conceding the ball like this.
You need Tom Maguire back for that.
Pick Martinez up and run with him.
And the timing couldn't have been worse.
Manchester United have sacked Ruben Amorim.
A manager dismissed after draws and drift. Confidence leaking week by week. A fan base tired of promises that never lasted beyond a month.
Sack the board, it's season over. We're going to play a pitiful 40 games this season. We're absolutely embarrassed at Old Trafford.
Across the city stood City, possession heavy, title chasing, still convinced this fixture belonged to them. The expectation was simple: City would dominate.
There could still be a new manager bounce, but I still think City are going to win this game.
United would endure. But while the noise grew louder, something quieter was happening inside Old Trafford. Roles were stripped back, distances tightened, decisions simplified. Players stopped asking what might go wrong and started trusting what had been prepared. Then the game began. 68% possession for City, 31.9% for United, and yet the chances fell the other way. 2-0, 6 big chances to 0, 2.03 expected goals against 0.45. 2 United goals ruled out. A superstar striker isolated, frustrated, withdrawn. And a team dismissed days earlier climbing into the top 4. This wasn't a fluke, it wasn't emotion, and it certainly wasn't luck. It was structure holding under pressure, timing chosen, not forced. Trust replacing hesitation. This is the night Michael Carrick changed the conversation.
I'll give him what he wants. Signed a contract.
How he turned City's strengths into traps, made Pep Guardiola's control sterile, and reminded everyone why possession without purpose means nothing. This isn't the story of a perfect performance. It's the story of why it didn't collapse when everyone said it would. This is what really happened at Old Trafford, who was doubted, who was right, and why one defining night forced the loudest voices to fall silent. By the time Saturday arrived, Manchester United were no longer being analysed as a football team. They were being assessed as a problem to be managed.
We sit here every week talking about Man United being the best of the best, and at this moment in time, I don't see that.
The league table framed the mood. United had drifted through a run of draws and narrow margins, leaving them outside the title conversation and clinging to relevance rather than authority. Above them, Manchester City still controlled games through possession, while Arsenal sat clear at the top, 6 points ahead, forcing City into a chase they were not used to. United, by contrast, were spoken about as a club searching for direction rather than points. The week itself was chaotic. Ruben Amorim was dismissed after a sequence of inconsistent performances that left the team tactically unsettled and emotionally flat. The decision was abrupt but not shocking. What followed, however, deepened the sense of drift. Darren Fletcher was asked to steady the side and instead oversaw 2 disjointed displays that ended any illusion of stability. Football lacked clarity, the roles looked improvised, and confidence visibly drained from the group. By midweek, the narrative had hardened. United were described as fragile. Their system was questioned. Individual players were framed as unreliable pieces in a broken structure. And looming over everything was the derby, a fixture that in recent seasons had tilted increasingly in City's favour. The assumption was simple: City would dominate the ball, dictate territory, and eventually break United down. That assumption felt logical. City were averaging close to 65 to 70% possession in league matches, while United had struggled to impose themselves without the ball. Into that atmosphere stepped Michael Carrick. On paper, his appointment was easy to dismiss. An interim solution, a familiar face. A former midfielder whose previous caretaker spell in 2021 was remembered more for calm professionalism than transformation. The language around him was cautious at best, skeptical at worst. Could he really change anything in days? Could he outthink Pep Guardiola, whose teams are built on automated patterns refined over years, not sessions? Yet inside the club, Carrick's return triggered a subtle but important shift. Training sessions shortened but sharpened, instructions simplified, roles clarified. The message was not about reinvention, it was about removal. Remove hesitation, remove overcoaching, remove the fear of making mistakes. Players were given defined tasks rather than abstract principles, particularly out of possession. The emphasis was on spacing, distances, and timing rather than domination. Carrick's public messaging mirrored that internal reset. He spoke about Old Trafford's magic not as nostalgia, but as responsibility, a reminder that the stadium rewards bravery more than control. It was a notable contrast to the external noise, which focused on how long United could survive without conceding. Internally, the objective was different: survive without surrendering identity. Selection choices reinforced that intent. The backline prioritized physical presence and dual security. The midfield pairing was chosen to screen rather than chase. And crucially, the attacking structure was designed with City's high line in mind, not to outpass them, but to hurt them when they stepped forward. This was not reactive football dressed up as pragmatism. It was targeted. By the eve of the match, expectations were clear. City were favourites. United were expected to endure. Possession forecasts leaned heavily one way. Tactical previews spoke of containment, damage, limitation, and hoping for moments. Almost no one framed the derby as a contest United could control in any phase. What was missed in that build-up was the underlying pressure City carried into Old Trafford. They arrived 6 points behind Arsenal, having already played a game more. A draw would barely help. A defeat would deepen a January wobble. For all their control, City needed efficiency, something that had begun to slip, particularly in decisive areas. So when the teams walked out, the contrast was sharp. City had the ball, the reputation, the recent history. United had uncertainty, urgency, and a manager with nothing to protect, but everything to prove. By kickoff, the story had been written for them. What followed was Carrick tearing that script apart, not with chaos, but with clarity. When the game settled into its first rhythm, the picture looked familiar on the surface. Manchester City had the ball. They would finish the night with 68.1% possession and 641 completed passes at 90% accuracy. But beneath that control was something new: discomfort. This was the first quiet victory of Michael Carrick's plan. United did not press City high in waves, nor did they retreat into a passive low block. Instead, they defended in layers, compressing the central corridor and deliberately inviting City wide. The 4-2-3-1 shape rarely broke. The back four held a compact line. The double pivot screened passing lanes into the half spaces. And the wide attackers recovered just enough to delay without collapsing the structure. City's possession became horizontal. United's defending became selective. The numbers reveal the intent. Despite City's dominance of the ball, they created 0 big chances and finished with an XG of just 4.5. For a side built on manipulating defensive lines and flooding the box, that figure is stark. City had only 1 shot on target. Their striker completed 14 touches in the box, a number more typical of a deep-lying midfielder than a focal point. Carrick's key decision was not where United defended, it was when they jumped. Pressing triggers were tied to City's weakest moments. Loose back passes, open body shapes from fullbacks, and Rodri receiving with his back to play. When those triggers appeared, United attacked space immediately. The goal was never to win the ball high high for sustained pressure. It was to win it cleanly, then release runners before City could reset their high line. This is where the shape transformed from defensive shell to attacking weapon. With Brian Mbeumo positioned as a mobile centre-forward rather than a fixed reference point, City's centre-backs were constantly pulled into indecision, step out and risk leaving space behind, or hold position and allow United's midfield runners to arrive unchecked. That hesitation created time, and time was all United needed. Down the flanks, Patrick Dorgu and Amad Diallo were instructed to attack the space between fullback and centre-back, not hug the touchline. The effect was devastating. United finished with 21 touches in City's penalty area despite having less than a third of the ball. They generated 6 big chances compared to City's 0. Possession was City's illusion. Territory belonged to United when it mattered. The first half told the story before the goals arrived. United hit the woodwork early, had 2 goals ruled out for offside, and forced 5 saves from City's goalkeeper. These were not low probability moments. United's 2.03 XG reflected chance quality, not volume. Every break felt purposeful. City, meanwhile, looked automated but blunt. Their wide play lacked end product. 20 crosses completed at just 10% accuracy, and central combinations were repeatedly smothered. When City did progress, United's defenders stepped in decisively. 13 interceptions, 27 clearances, and a backline winning key aerial duels at critical moments. This was not desperate defending, it was anticipation. The second half exposed the structural contrast even more clearly. City pushed higher, chasing tempo. United stayed patient. Then on 65 minutes, the trap snapped shut. A City set piece broke down. United transitioned instantly. One vertical pass, one supporting run. Mbeumo finished clinically, the kind of chance Carrick's setup was designed to produce. From that moment, City's control dissolved. They still had the ball, but now they were stretched. United did not retreat. They narrowed spacing and waited for the next opening. It came 11 minutes later. A substitute introduced fresh legs. A driven cross attacked the near channel. Dorg arrived between markers and finished with conviction. At 2-0, the tactical story was complete. This was not an emotional derby win powered by chaos, it was a controlled dismantling built on structure, clarity, and timing. Carrick didn't try to outpossess City, he outthought them. And as the final minutes ticked away, with another United goal ruled out and City's key attackers substituted in frustration, Old Trafford wasn't just celebrating a scoreline, it was recognising a team that finally knew who it was supposed to be again. If you want the real meaning of this derby, you don't find it in the scoreline first. You find it in the behaviour of the team, the tiny decisions that expose whether a side is playing with conviction or playing with caution. That's where the contrast between United under Ruben Amorim and United under Michael Carrick becomes stark. And it's a contrast you can track through specific match scenarios from the weeks leading into this derby. Take the 1-1 draw with Wolves at Old Trafford on 30th December 2025. This wasn't a mid-table Wolves side riding momentum. Wolves were bottom and had collected only 3 points all season at that stage, yet United failed to seize the moment that mattered, the chance to move into the top 4. Sky Sports framed it as a major missed opportunity, highlighting that Amorim returned to a back 3, with the game defined by a lack of control after going ahead. Amorim himself didn't hide from what it looked like. In United's own post-match coverage, his message was blunt: the fluidity was not there. That line matters because it speaks directly to confidence. Teams that feel fluent take the second goal. They don't just recycle possession, they accelerate into the decisive pass. Against Wolves, United scored first, but the game never felt like it belonged to them for long stretches. The shape and selection became part of the story, with commentary focusing on confusion rather than certainty. now moved to Leeds 1-1 United on 4th of January 2026. United concede first on 62 minutes, responding quickly through a Cunha equaliser 3 minutes later, which sounds positive until you zoom out. A quick equaliser is good. The deeper issue is that United were again forced into response mode rather than asserting themselves for 90 minutes. Even United's official report frames it as being held to a draw. This is what low to medium confidence looks like at elite level. You can produce a reaction, you can produce moments, but you struggle to impose a repeatable dominance that closes the match. And when that becomes your rhythm, pressure builds. Every game turns into a referendum on the manager's method, not a platform for the team's strengths. The most useful example is United 1-0 Newcastle on 26th of December 2025. United won, clean sheet, a decisive goal. But the story around that match is revealing. It became a talking point because Amorim made a surprising structural change, starting with a back four in a league match, which was highlighted as a notable deviation from his usual setup. In other words, the win wasn't just United were good, it was United looked better when Amorim moved away from the thing he was most identified with. That creates an awkward psychological environment. Players start second-guessing what the real plan is. Fans read every lineup like a confession. Opponents sense uncertainty. Even when you win, the confidence doesn't always compound because the framework around the win is unsettled. Now jump to the derby. United 2-0 City at Old Trafford on the 17th of January 2026. Before you even talk about tactics, talk about the difference in posture. This time United weren't responding, they were initiating. The evidence is in the chance profile, not the possession. Possession United 31.9%, City 68.1% XG, United 2.03, City 0.45. Big chances. United 6, City 0, shots on target. United 7, City 1. That's not what a fearful team produces. Fearful teams sit deep and hope. This United side created the game's best moments repeatedly, to the point where 3 United goals were disallowed and City's goalkeeper was busy preventing a heavier defeat. Carrick's own framing going into the match matters here. He spoke openly about rebuilding player confidence and insisted Old Trafford's magic remains, not as nostalgia, but as an active force the team could still access. That confidence showed up in scenarios teams only execute when they trust the plan. United had multiple disallowed goals, yet the intensity didn't flatten. In many low-confidence teams, a ruled-out goal becomes a psychological punch. Here it became proof the plan was working. Keep making the same runs, keep attacking the same spaces, because the openings will come again. City had the ball, but they couldn't generate high-value chances. Their striker, Haaland, was effectively neutralised and later substituted, with reporting noting his limited influence and a prolonged scoring drought. That's what confidence looks like defensively. You don't chase possession, you choose where the game is played. Both Guardian and Reuters describe the first goal as a textbook. Fast transition finished by Mbumo after a break led by Fernandes. That is pre-decided football. The ball is won and the runners already know where the next pass is going. Under Amorim, United too often looked like they needed the game to tell them what to do next. Under Carrick in this match, they looked like they already knew. This derby didn't just feel good, it changed the stakes. United moved provisionally into 4th, while City remained 6 points behind Arsenal with a game played more, meaning pressure shifts immediately to City's next fixtures, while United's next match becomes a genuine momentum test rather than a survival mission. So when you frame why this night changed the season, it isn't a motivational poster line. It's structural. Under Amorim, United repeatedly flirted with top 4 and then dropped points in games that should have been controlled. Wolves, Leeds. Under Carrick, within one match, United produced a performance profile that suggests repeatability, low possession, high-quality chances, defensive stability, and emotional control under VAR disruption. That's what confidence means at this level. Not chest thumping, not hype. It means the team's decisions become cleaner, earlier, and more coordinated, and the match stops feeling like something happening to you. This is how seasons change direction, not with declarations, but with evidence. Manchester United did not stumble into this victory. They engineered it. And that distinction matters because it reshapes what comes next. A one-off result can be dismissed. A repeatable performance cannot. For Michael Carrick, this derby was not a statement of ambition. It was a demonstration of competence. He showed he could diagnose a problem quickly, simplify a broken structure, and align players to a shared purpose under pressure. That is the hardest currency in elite management, and once players feel clarity, belief accelerates faster than form ever could. The immediate test is unforgiving. A trip to leaders Arsenal now carries genuine intrigue, not because United are favourites, but because they arrive with a defined identity. They know how to defend without panic. They know how to attack space without overcommitting. They know how to suffer without losing shape. Those are traits that travel. Zoom out further and the implications deepen. United's rise into the top four conversation is no longer theoretical, with chance quality trending upward, defensive actions becoming proactive rather than reactive, and key players thriving in clearly defined roles. This team is building a baseline, the platform every strong run is built upon. Consistency, not perfection, is now the target. For Manchester City, the warning lights are harder to ignore. Falling 6 points behind Arsenal with a game played more strips away comfort. Their control remains, but efficiency has dulled. Big chances are drying up. Games are becoming longer, heavier, more resistant. January has turned from opportunity into pressure. And pressure, unlike possession, cannot be recycled endlessly. What this derby ultimately did was reset the frame. United are no longer a club waiting for the season to end. City are no longer cruising toward inevitability. Arsenal are no longer chased casually. Every match now carries consequence. Most importantly, the conversation around Carrick has shifted. No longer interim, no longer placeholder. He is now being judged on football terms, on spacing, triggers, transitions, and authority. That is the threshold every serious manager must cross. This night did not crown a saviour. It established credibility. And if the patterns from Old Trafford hold, if the structure remains, if the discipline endures, if the bravery without the ball continues, then this was not the peak. It was the beginning of a run that could redefine the season, reshape the title race, and permanently change how Manchester United are prepared, perceived, and feared again. Because some wins fade by Monday morning, others redraw the map. This one did the latter.